I matched with a 48-year-old doctor in Chicago this week. We hit it off fast. She had great photos, smart, funny, attractive, real job, busy schedule, but was genuinely into it. We messaged, then text, a lot. 2 days of solid back and forth, and we were already talking about a phone call and meeting in person. The kind of early connection where you're thinking it might actually go somewhere. Her profile said she had kids. She's 48, so in my head, I'm thinking college-aged, maybe early 20s, maybe late teens, grown or basically grown, technically adults. The kind of kids where they have their own lives. Maybe they're in and out, but they're not dictating their parents' free time. And then casually, in the middle of conversation, she drops in a line about her 11-year-old daughter. And that was it. She didn't do anything wrong, and she seemed like a great person. But an 11-year-old is a completely different situation than what I thought I was signing up for. I'm not looking to step into middle school life, custody schedules, homework, bedtime routines, co-parenting with an ex who's very much still in the picture because they have to be. I don't have that kind of lifestyle, and I don't want that kind of lifestyle. So I ended it. And I hated doing that. She was great. But to be honest, I would have never started anything like that if I had known from the beginning, because that one piece of information changes everything, and it's nowhere in the profile. That's what I want to talk about today, the gap between what people put in their profiles and what stuff actually matters. Because right now, the basics, name, height, age, have kids, don't have kids, maybe an occupation, maybe politics, maybe some cute prompt answers, maybe not even that. We get coffee photos and travel photos and one picture with a dog, but we don't get the real stuff. We don't get, I have an 11-year-old that I split custody of. We don't get, my faith is the most important thing in my life. We don't get, I'm responsible for my elderly parents. We don't get, I don't own a car, or I hate dogs, or I think McDonald's is fine 3 nights a week. We get have kids, not have an 11-year-old, 50-50 custody, my ex is in the mix. This is a whole lifestyle. And when you're dating in your 40s and 50s, those details are the main story. They're the scaffolding of your actual life. So you end up in this weird situation where you talk to someone for days, you build this thing in your head, and then one missing sentence drops out of the sky and you go, oh, this is not my life. And suddenly you're the bad guy for leaving. I want to sit with that for a second because that's where this episode came from. Have kids is not a yes or no category when you're 48. Have a 22-year-old who lives in another city and is figuring their life out is one thing. Have an 11-year-old I share custody of and I'm doing the school thing and the activities and every other weekend is something else. It makes for a completely different experience for the person dating you, and I don't think it's unfair to say that should be in your profile. If you're listening to this and thinking, well, you could have asked, sure, I could have, but we don't ask every possible deal-breaker question on day one. We assume the big life-changing or life-shaping things are going to be at least in their profile or mentioned early on, because I put work into this, time into this, I got my hopes up, and then I had to be the guy who says, hey, this thing you love more than anything in the world, that you organize your whole life around, that's actually the reason I'm out. And that sucks for both of us. And it was avoidable, because I'm not going to lie and pretend I'm okay being half-time stepdad to a middle schooler when I'm not. But it's the kind of situation that could have been prevented by one extra sentence in the bio. I have an 11-year-old daughter I share custody of. That's it. Let people self-select. And this is the unsexy truth about dating our age. It's logistics. It's schedules and responsibilities and kids and exes and health stuff and money stuff and where do you actually live and how many days a week do you realistically have free? This doctor, she's 48. She's got a weird schedule, on call, long shifts, probably exhausted half the time. Add an 11-year-old to that, and you basically have half a date night every third Thursday if the stars align. And that's not what I'm looking for. Some people might be fine with that. Some people might want that. They don't need more than that. And the only way to choose that is if you tell them the truth early on enough so they can opt out or opt in before feelings, energy, and time get involved. There's a whole category of things people almost never put in their profile that's absolutely changes whether you're compatible. Some are big, some are petty, and some are just kind of funny but still matter. Things like my political views are my entire personality, and I'm intolerant of anyone who disagrees. I'm responsible for the care of my elderly parents. I'm sober now, but used to have a serious drug problem. Church and faith are the most important things in my life. I don't like dogs. That's a huge one for me. I don't own a car. I bike everywhere. My kids have to approve who I date, and I let them. I'm independently wealthy and don't work. I inherited money. I have a restraining order against someone, or someone has one against me. I have a gambling problem. I have a terrible relationship with my parents, and it colors everything. Those are big ones. Then there's the ridiculous stuff, but still telling. I don't own a suit and will never wear one. I only wear Birkenstocks 100% of the time. I never dress up for any occasion. I still write checks. I eat McDonald's regularly in my 50s, and I'm not stopping. I don't know how to swim. I don't know how to ride a bike. I leave the lights on all the time. I'm an aggressive driver. I always stop at yellow lights, and it'll drive you insane. I hate the beach. I believe in ghosts. I'm 50 and still can't cook anything that isn't frozen. None of those go in the bio, but they do shape your actual day-to-day life with that person. You're not weird for wanting to know some of this in advance. You're also not going to get a 100-item disclosure checklist before the first date. That's not realistic. What we're really talking about is, what are the 3 or 4 things about your life that, if hidden, are going to blindside someone later? Those probably belong in the profile, or at least in the first few conversations. So let me turn this back on myself for a second. If I'm going to say, hey, that 11-year-old should have been in the profile, then I have to ask, what are my version of those things? I have a dog. That's not a minor detail. I'm pretty introverted. I'm not out at bars 3 nights a week. My life is quiet. Work, dog, podcast, friends, sleep, repeat. I had cancer. I'm fine now, but it's part of my story. We talked about that in a full episode, but I'm not leading with it on Bumble. I don't need had cancer in my bio. But at some point, early on, someone deserves to know that's part of the package. The question becomes, when does I'm just being private turn into I'm kind of hiding the ball? We hide stuff because we don't want to be rejected for it. They hide stuff because they don't want to be rejected for it. And then we all end up feeling blindsided when the real information finally shows up. You can't possibly front load every potential deal breaker. Nobody wants to read a profile that's basically a legal disclosure document. I have 2 kids, 11 and 9, split custody. My ex isn't a monster, but he's around. I'm vegan. I have a peanut allergy. I don't drive on highways. My mom lives with me. My adult son has to approve everyone I date. I once had a gambling problem. I hate dogs. I never wear heels. I don't know how to swim. And I leave cabinet doors open. We'd all swipe left on that from sheer overwhelm. But you can pick 2 or 3 things that are most likely to break the deal for a reasonable person your age with your lifestyle. If you have young kids, say their ages. If faith is central to you, say it. If you're sober and don't want alcohol around, say that. If you hate dogs and you live in a world where half the population has one, say it. Same for me. If my life is quieter than the average person is expecting from my profile, maybe I need to find a way to signal that honestly. I have a pretty low-key routine life. If you need constant action, I'm probably not your guy. Because what's worse than someone ruling you out early is someone investing 2 weeks, then realizing you live in completely different universes. So, where does this leave us? If you're dating right now, especially in midlife, what are 2 or 3 things about your actual life that are most likely to blindside someone if they don't know that about you until later? And why aren't they in your profile or in your first couple conversations? If you recognize yourself in any of this, here's a small experiment you can run. Add 1 honest line to your profile about something real that shapes your life. Could be, I share custody of my 10-year-old, or I'm sober and don't drink, or my life is pretty quiet and I like it that way. And when you're talking to someone new, ask one deeper question a little earlier than you normally would. like asking what their week really looks like, or what's something important that didn't make it onto your profile. Not that you're building some legal contract, but you're just trying to close the distance between the app version of you and the Tuesday night version of you before somebody gets their hopes up for a life you don't actually live.